What if I was to point out that right now in Ontario, there's an election going on. These are just but the candidates for the seat of member of provincial parliament. And if you can see by the names, well, these are just but descendants of immigrants who have come here and they are making it. What if it was Kenya? There will be so much noise. There will be so much conundrum. And groups of young men and women on buses and trucks being ferried up and down. Business will be at standstill. But look, listen to the... Is that peace and quiet? Is that people going on their day-to-day business? That is the Kenya we would want, where politics comes second to the day-to-day people's lives. Hello everyone, welcome back to Vitu Vidogo, a show that showcases, one of life events. Once in a while, we will come across elections like this one. Today marks is an election day for Ontario Member of Parliament, MPP, Member of Provincial Parliament elections. And this election is gonna determine who is going to be the premier for Ontario. The premier is to what Kenya is a governor in a county. And today, I'm just going to showcase how it looks like to have an election maybe here in Ontario as opposed to in Kenya. In Kenya, we do our election day on one particular day where you have to vote 6 candidates. But today, we are just doing a voting for a premier and his member of parliament. So I think that makes it easier when you're voting just, if it is a local government, then it's easier than just voting for all members of government from national level and a mix of local as well. I think that's why Kenyan election is so hotly contested, and you find Kenyans, sometimes these elections, they hold their normal day-to-day businesses. As you can see, here we have 2 sides. I think this road has divided is the boundary of 2 constituencies. I'd like you to see on my right, candidate there is called Babikian, and on the left there's Sao for red and Peter Yuen for red on the right, and on my left is KE. Yeah, of course it's not Kenya. So the red banners are for liberals and the blue are for conservatives. So I would like you to know that this road here is the boundary, marks the boundary between 2 constituencies. And on my left, you can see the red candidate here, it's Jonathan Sao, and the blue candidate is Sue Liu. And on our right here is Peter Yuen and Babikian. Today it's so nice. I think we are at plus maybe 5, 10. It feels so nice, after having weeks of real cold and sub-zero temperatures, and having two back-to-back snowstorms, the warm weather is really welcome. Now, I wanted to show you that, we are at elections, and if it was in Kenya, you'll be seeing long queues of people going to vote, and it's usually like it's like work, because you have to be there maybe early. Maybe some people even sleep just waiting for the polls to open. You're sleeping at the doorways. People are up there maybe even at 5 in the morning, trying to get your candidate who's gonna determine the rest of 5 years of your life, if they're gonna pass good policies or gonna make mistakes. And here today, you can see, I think those are some of the voters coming out, and we don't have those huge lines, and this is something that is very refreshing, because this is partly because the election is not just a one-day affair. It goes for a week. The polling stations are open for a week, but today, today is the last day for in-person voting. This is what I want to do. I don't want to vote by mail. The Kenyan in me cannot allow me. But hey, I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna cast my ballot, and you see, there's not much line. So the door is right there. You can see where you have and so I'm walking in. Yeah, and that's where we're gonna vote in today. So I have cast my vote. Yes. So this is another thing I'd like to add. If you're an immigrant and you have come in and you're Canadian, please get to know what is going on around your neighborhood and vote. Oh my, I have just cast my vote, and I can tell you, the voting here is quite an experience. Have you ever felt dignified? We are used to the long queues. Hurry up, vote, get out of here. I had my ID. That's the same thing we do back home. And of course, I'm in the list of in the registration list. But this is the first time I've cast the vote here, and I've gone in and I've sat down. You don't vote standing. You sit down. And then when you're talking with the registration officer, you're also offered a seat. It has felt like one of those, when you go to a corporate bank, forget the other. When you go to a normal bank and your normal banking business, you just stand in line and wait until the next teller, tells you, come on. But when you're going to the corporate section, where you bring big business, they offer you a seat. I think even in some banks, they offer you tea or coffee. This is how I felt. This is how I felt. I pulled a chair, and they were just having small talk, and I confirmed it's me, and I signed a couple of things, and I was told to proceed on to mark my ballot paper. And yeah, where I went to mark my ballot paper, I sat down as well. And of course, when I cast my vote into the ballot, it was slipped in by a machine. Oh my. I think you need to experience this so that you can understand, you know. And then I'm seeing other people come in to vote as well, and they're having their ballot papers. I think they were sent by post office, so they already marked the ballots, and so they're just going in there to get confirmed, and then they cast it. Like, it's not just a one way of doing things. There are different ways, but you know. So yeah, it's quite an experience. I'm very happy. And you know, as I have said, the ballot voting is like a 1 week affair. But if you wanna vote in person, then they will give a timeline. You can vote also on weekends, but on the last day of the election, the voting day, they won't allow you to go in there. Maybe if you have received your voting a ballot paper by your mail, then at that point, that's when you can just, you know, send it back. Yeah, but today I think is the last day for voting in person. Yeah, it's quite an experience. You know, no noise, you know, the candidates with the young men on top of lorries and buffering men and women, you know, that is, you know, that is the culmination of Africa politics, you know. That's when you know we have high rates of unemployment. When you see men and women being ferried from one corner of the country to the other, you know, politicians standing on the one side of the road, people are just like waiting for you to finish your speech and give them money. Yeah, this is a breath of fresh air. I kid you not, this is a breath of fresh air. Yeah. Oh my. But we will get there. We will get there. One day, I'm very sure we will get there. So I'm signing out for Vitu Vidogo, and I would urge you, you know, if wherever you are watching from, you know, African brothers and sisters, you know, those in diaspora and those back home, try to encourage each other that, you know, the fabric of nationhood is the one that should stand firm. That one we should not tear. You know, we can disagree, you know, even in politics, even the manner of doing things, but the fighting should stop. Elections and politics should not cripple our day-to-day lives. You know, it should not cripple our businesses. It should not cripple our ability to reason. You know, it should not force us the chaos to go and become, you know, running battles. You know, Kenyans are very much aware of the happenings of the post-election violence in 2007. Yes, the election was stolen, but you know, brothers and sisters would not have turned on each other. Yes, you see, the politicians, at the end of the day, they had an agreement. They had what we now is famously known in Kenya as the handshake. And this handshake has been happening perpetually now. How many years now? Every election cycle, there's always a handshake. There was a handshake then between Moi Kibaki and Raila Odinga. There was a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. There was another handshake with Ruto and Raila Odinga. I don't know. Though all the politicians of the political class, they were always, after dividing Kenyans, after dividing the voters in Africa, they will always find a way to come together. And this is something I would really urge you to have a look and reflect, because the future generations should do away with the old politics. We should learn from them. Yeah, so the future generations, or the young people now, the generation, the millennials, the Gen Zs, and now we are having the generation Alpha is next. So with the help of course, the open-minded senior citizens of our countries, those who foresaw things changing, because you know, for what we have right now is because that mindset of change is because others before us, they had that mindset of change, and they have they are constant, their unrelenting focus, and the zeal of seeing a good, you know good, or the good of Africa, the good of a country, us becoming more like, you see, the Asian tigers that have come up very well, like Singapore. We also have very good, few states, African states, that like Botswana. Botswana is also some a country to look up to in terms of the elections. And we can see, if it's just that it's happening slowly in Africa, but in Asian countries, you see it going very well. They have adopted the nationhood first. You can see how South Korea, their president, tried to call the military into the streets just the other day, and the members of parliament said, no, you cannot introduce martial law, and so there'll always be that human aspect. Sometimes, like our president in Kenya just the other day, after the rejection of finance bill, for the first time we saw the military in the streets. You see, so there will always be that temptation, because sometimes someone is in office and they think they'll want to overrule the masses. But anyway, that is a story for another day. So what I'm coming to is, let us learn. Let us learn that, we have to be consistent. We always have to look at that good. We aim at the ideal all the time, so that we can have it good. We can have it good. Thank you so much. See you on the next episode. Yeah, and please share, subscribe, and comment. Let us see other ideas come up, so that we can make a better Africa. Thank you.